So today's my birthday. It's the 4th of July 2014 and it's officially been 15 years since I started making films. I got my first camera and off I went, and it's now 15 years later, and you know, I've done a lot of stuff over the past 15 years and I thought it would be nice to look back on those things and reflect on what I've done and where I've come in all those years. And yeah, this is my movie making story. This is 15 years of No Stairway Productions. Is the red light on?
I don't know, 5 seconds.
On July 4th, 1999, I got my very first camera on my 11th birthday. I instantly started filming anything and everything, eager to commit all of my recordings to video. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of the things I filmed that summer, including 3 short films, but my first real film remains completely intact. The year before that, I had made a film with my cousins Adam and Jody with my uncle Richard, putting it all together. I'd always loved films, but making this fun home movie really sparked my imagination about putting together my own films. The film was called The 3 Rascals, and we played just that, 3 kids on an adventure for treasure, fighting the evil old Krabby literally to the bitter end. Our nan played Krabby and was a great sport, dressing up and acting all evil and nasty. It was a lot of fun, and I couldn't wait to start doing my own thing. With my new camera handed down to me from my nan and granddad, I made Wild Wild Wales, my very first film. It was awesome actually making a film myself, coming up with the story, the scenes, editing it all afterwards, adding music and titles. I actually edited it using a VHS player and eventually had to hook up 2 machines to dub the music over. My nan had a brief role but mainly helped out behind the scenes this time, helping me film it and keeping my spirits up when it was raining on the last day. I also had a lot of fun being the bad guy, but considering I was 11 when I made it, I'm still quite proud of the end product. I made all kinds of films that first year, but most of them were lost, and it wasn't until 2001 that I really tried to make another film. It was a sequel to The 3 Rascals, and was something we all wanted to do, but after a disastrous last day of filming, I abandoned it completely, and most of that footage is also lost. In 2003, I was becoming a teenager, and was more interested in having fun than I was making films. Enter No Name, a Jackass-inspired show that I made with my friends Christian, Mark, Reese, and Jamie. It was a stupid time, but it was a fun time, and we spent a few months filming ourselves, getting up to all kinds of things. Most of it wasn't any good, but I felt like it was the last time I could be a complete idiot. I'd always acted older than I was, and felt like I should be growing up quicker, but at 14, with the No Name guys, I let go and acted like a kid for a while. Eventually, we all fell out, as kids sometimes do, but I wanted to continue No Name. It was a fun outlet for me to make videos without having to get friends to act in a film. So I reconnected with some old friends from my early childhood, Neil, Carl and Rich, all brothers, and they became the new cast for No Name Season 2. Things got crazier instantly as they were much more willing to do stupid stuff. It was almost like a social experiment. I picked up my camera and off they would go. I appeared from time to time, but for the most part they were the main focus. One of the scariest moments was when Rich accidentally set their kitchen floor on fire. It was okay in the end and cool to look back on the footage, but at the time it scared the hell out of me, and I knew that it was time for me to start thinking about moving out and doing that sort of thing. On my 15th birthday I received a new camera, this time from my dad and my stepmom. I'd occasionally film things for my dad like his band The Reservoir Cats, his paragliding days out, and I even secretly recorded him during a fit of road rage once.
Drive right to the middle of the fucking road, shall I? Fucking prick!
My first film with a new Hi8 camera was a reunion with my cousins Adam and Jody. We'd all grown up a bit, but we were still young at heart. We made Dumb and Dumber 3 The Kids, my longest movie to date, and the first time I used a tripod, experimenting with angles properly for the first time and different ways of framing. It was a stupid mess, but nice to look back on as we all changed so much from The 3 Rascals 5 years earlier, yet we still had the same thrill of just having a good time filming something together. It was the last film I made with both of them.
How does the bridge work? How long's the book?
My next project was No Name the Movie, a compilation of the best moments from both of the No Name lineups, with new footage I'd filmed including the road rage clip, and my other cousin Ben messing around on his little scooter and generally just being hilarious.
That's it! A nature boy!
In 2004 I filmed a 3rd and final season of No Name with the Crazy Brothers returning, and I ended it on a high note with Rich jumping into Penarth Marina. Oh god. The final episode of Season 3 was the first video I edited digitally. I was finally able to load my footage onto my dad's computer and let loose with effects, proper titles, music overlays, and the ability to upload my videos online. Back then YouTube didn't exist, but I was still able to show some of my friends the things I was doing. I could now do slow motion, I could put music over video with no quality loss. I felt like Sam Neill looking at the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park for the first time. As I was leaving school, I decided to try another film, in part to commemorate the occasion, and got two of my friends from high school to be in it. Misplaced, a comedy heavily inspired and in a lot of cases derived from the UK sitcom Spaced. I played Alan Ripley, a man who shares flats with people and never pays his rent. Enter the evil debt collector who is hunting him down. A lot of the film ended up failing due to scheduling, resources and technical problems, but overall I made it half work. I even had an American visual effects artist animate part of a lightsaber duel for the climax of the film. While the end product wasn't fantastic, I loved the process and the excitement of putting it together. I also made one last film with Adam that summer called Knackered. But the less said about that, seriously, the better. I rounded off the summer with the challenge to make a film in 24 hours. Ironically, it turned out to be the best thing I'd ever done, taking about 1/10 of the time to make The Misplaced, and was also a lot shorter. This is where I learnt the lesson of quality over quantity. It was a simple short of me breaking into a house and fighting an unknown man played by Adam from Misplaced, using many different angles and including a cheesy one-liner.
This time, you're screwed.
I had put together a short but effective film, I thought. Again, it wasn't perfect, but it felt a little cinematic, and I realised I had a knack for putting films together. Sadly, I didn't seem to take the hint at 16 years old and moved away from filmmaking to pursue another passion of mine, wrestling. I'd wrestled for years with my friends and found out in the early 2000s that people were taking part in backyard wrestling around the UK. A random encounter online led to me finding out about a group of guys who were wrestling every week in my hometown. Enter WCWE, Welsh Championship Wrestling Entertainment. I instantly joined the group and offered my services as a cameraman and editor. For the next 7 years, I would film and edit over 200 backyard wrestling events, from WCWE's own shows, which took place on a field next to an abandoned council estate, to shows with a professional ring in front of 250 paying members of the public. I didn't just make the videos though, I wrestled in them too. From 2004 to 2010, I travelled around the UK on a monthly basis and wrestled in all kinds of places. I wrestled on the ground, I wrestled on gym mats, I wrestled in homemade rings, I wrestled in professional rings, I wrestled in front of hundreds of people, I wrestled in front of 2 people, and I even wrestled in a barn. On hay. Yeah. I got really experienced over those years in editing to music, using effects and trying to tell a story that fit with the soundtrack. I also filmed some of the shenanigans as we travelled from Wales up to London, Luton, Manchester and Newcastle, and putting together some of that footage into silly shorts like A Weekend in the Life of Chunks in 2006, which was mostly just stuff from the hotel room with some editing to spice it up a little bit. Later that summer, I made a documentary/music video hybrid of matches and non-wrestling fun from a huge event called Heatfest. Everyone in the UK backyard wrestling community would get together for Interfed events, and Heatfest, held in Aylesbury, was one of the biggest. We would camp out by the ring for almost a full week and wrestle for a few days. It was a special time, and having all those memories on video now is a real treat. From us Welsh guys, travelling there, travelling back, wrestling at the event and everything else in between, it turned 78 hours in Aylesbury into a really unique video. Wrestling took over my life at that point. I finished a TV and film production course in college, though I never really fully took advantage of it. My mind was always on my next match. I truly made some of the best friends in my life, and although I made some stupid decisions, acting very reckless at times, I don't regret any of it. I formed a bond with the most unlikely group of misfit people, most of whom were awesome guys with great hearts. Putting together a match and wrestling someone is such a unique experience. You have to protect each other and work with each other in such a unique way that sometimes you can't help but grow closer because of it. In 2008 I returned to a no-name style series with Hanging Brain, a series of random footage I'd filmed on my travels that were a lot of fun for the people involved. But as far as any outside perspective goes, I think it's best to avoid some of that stuff. Guys will be guys, and guys are dumb. 2009 saw WCWE return to business as we'd stopped doing our own thing on a regular basis since around 2006. It was arguably the best period for our home fed, with some great matches and a lot of fun moments outside of the wrestling too. I was ready to put an end to my backyard career as it was only hurting my body and we were all getting too old to be doing this just for fun. Some guys I knew and wrestled were now making a success as professional wrestlers, but I knew that was never going to be in my future. I returned to Aylesbury with a bunch of the Welsh guys that summer for the 6th annual Heatfest. It was the biggest and best yet, with backyarders from Canada flying over especially, just to hang out and wrestle with us all. I filmed a ton of stuff just like I did in 2006 and released a 2.5-hour documentary entitled Another 78 Hours in Aylesbury. It took what I put together with the first film to bigger levels, which was appropriate as, in my opinion, Heatfest 2009 was the best gathering of backyarders from around the world put together at one time. Everyone went above and beyond that year, in both the wrestling and the social side of things. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had, and a bittersweet end to a huge part of my life. I returned the year after for the final Heatfest in 2010, but it just wasn't quite the same. 2009 was the last hurrah for most of us. Sure, we could reunite and put on more shows, and a lot of them have done, but that one moment in time over those few days could never be replicated. We'd all grown up fully and had an unforgettable time. The last 8 minutes of the film is an edited sequence which I still consider my best piece of editing. In the end, for me, Another 78 Hours in Aylesbury is a really special film, one of my personal favourites. I'm really proud of it, and it just encapsulates everything that was awesome about that week and really caps off my whole backyard wrestling career / part of my life. In 2010, after all but leaving wrestling behind, I toyed around with a few things video-wise, including a comedy short I filmed in Norway called John Mountain. Ultimately though, as fun as that one was, it was still just me arsing around in front of a camera. I had no one to be in a film for me, and I had no ideas for that matter, so for the next year, and in 2011, I made a big change. For one thing, I had my last match, and truly put wrestling behind me, but I also started a YouTube channel. I'd had one since the beginning to post my wrestling videos, but this time I created a channel specifically to host videos for the YouTube audience as RazorwireReviews. I started out reviewing wrestling shows and DVDs, but quickly transferred over to the movie side of things. I reviewed movies, started collecting Blu-rays and talking about them, quickly building up a small following of viewers. And then I started to expand my simple run of videos with web series like the Epic Film Challenge. Me and my fiancée Connie decided to not only try and watch 366 films in 1 year, but to make a video review of them all too. In the summer of 2012 we successfully completed the challenge. Most of the videos were simple vlog style reviews, but we tried to be creative every now and again for the milestone episodes. My filmmaking passion continued to shine through in some of those videos, and it was a really rewarding experience.
Luke! What? Luke!
What? In the final video we reviewed Best Worst Movie, a documentary about the so-called worst film ever made, Troll 2. We'd previously made special reviews of Troll and Troll 2, so it seemed like a natural conclusion to the series. The director of Best Worst Movie and the child star of Troll 2 saw our review and sent us a very nice tweet about it, capping off the whole thing. Once again though, I found that I should be pursuing quality over quantity, and in addition to my everyday videos, I would put together many more different series on my channel. I reviewed all the Batman movies in depth in the RazorwireReviews Batathon, all in the run up to the release of The Dark Knight Rises in the summer of 2012. I reviewed every movie my favourite actor Michael Keaton has appeared in for Michael Keaton Month in October of 2013. Mainly just reviews again, but I did little things here and there that would kind of spice them up and be a bit more creative with them. I'm also currently running a series of videos focusing on the news of the new Star Wars movie called The Road to Episode 7. The best thing about being on YouTube though was meeting some awesome people who love movies, much in the same way as I met awesome people who loved wrestling in my backyard days. Perhaps the biggest highlight of my video production for RazorwireReviews has been the annual 24-hour movie marathon, an idea originated by my good friend Ryan Chataway. The 24-hour movie marathon sees YouTubers from around the world watch movies for 24 hours and make videos as they do it. The first year in 2012 I took part eagerly, and while the video did contain me mainly talking about the films I was watching, I couldn't help but add more. I threw in a few skits to make it a bit more special, which snowballed into my second marathon video in 2013. Whilst the first was 20 minutes long, the second was an hour and 45 minutes. It turned into one of my most popular videos, and I realised that after all these years making films, I finally had an audience. That makes me analyse things more, pay more attention to detail, and it definitely exacerbates the perfectionist in me. Just a couple of months ago I released my third 24-hour movie marathon video, which was over 3 hours long and even more well received. I put a huge amount of time into it with an elaborate intro, cameos from other YouTubers, and sequences that made it a great hybrid of styles. My last real film to date was Psycho Kid vs Sandog. It was a short I put together with footage from a wrestling storyline I was involved in National Alliance Wrestling based in Luton, where I'd been a mainstay for 4 years. It was in 2009 where I had my final run in a bit of feud with Adam James Irwin. It was a very serious storyline with lots of intensity, violence and physicality. It was the culmination of everything I loved about wrestling, particularly a heated, serious build-up for a grudge match. It's almost certainly not for everyone, but another little film I'm really proud of. For 15 years I've dreamed of making films, and ultimately I am. Do I wish I could be directing proper theatrical films right now? Definitely, but I still love doing what I'm doing, and if in 15 years time I'm still making films and videos for nothing other than fun, that's alright by me. My goal is to be a professional filmmaker, but if I never make a penny doing it, I won't lose any sleep. I was so shy growing up, and so I always struggled, even when making films sometimes, to put myself out there or have confidence in myself. Towards the end of my wrestling days, my confidence grew incredibly, though I wouldn't say I'm now an extrovert or anything. Still, I'm proud of and I'm happy with most of the things I've done, which I think is the most important thing. So that's my story. 15 years of No Stairway Productions. Thanks for indulging me in this trip down memory lane, and here's to another 15 years.
Do you think that you're going to make your... I mean, you're only 11 now. Do you think that you're going to make your life as an actor? You think you're going to act all your life?
Well, I really like acting. I really enjoy it, but I wouldn't like to start out as an actor early as how old I am now, because the people who are kids' age only go for about 5 years, and they look a bit different and they just die out then.
All right. So you'd like to stop acting now and maybe go on to maybe drama school?
Well,
or?
Yeah, drama school when I go to high school, and just keep acting, making films and all that,
And see how it goes,
yeah.
See where it takes you.
Yeah. Get off it!